everyone. Before we jump on to the agenda of today's talk, let me share my background and professional journey with you. So I started my career with Genpact in 2011, worked there for 4.5 years into different domains like marketing, finance, and pricing analytics. I am a 2015-16 batch student of PGPP program from Great Lakes. After that, in end of 2015, I joined Fidelity Investments Bangalore, worked there for 3.5 years. Since last year, I'm with PayPal, working as a lead data scientist in the team here, Advanced Analytics and Decision Strategy, supporting main verticals like marketing and sales analytics. So let's get on to the agenda of our today's talk. Again, we'll start with one of the most important questions that people have. Why do we need a good resume for data science and machine learning? We'll try to answer these questions. Next topic, on the next section, we'll talk about, we have 8 steps, which I have collated and summarized on how to build a good resume for data science and machine learning. These steps actually covers the do's and don'ts that we should follow during a resume building exercise. In the next step, we'll talk about this, again, one of the common questions that people have on GitHub profile creation. We'll follow some of the basic steps. I have created a new profile on how to create your GitHub profile and how you can showcase your projects over there. Last section will be the Q&A sections. I would encourage you to ask any questions if you have in that session. So let's start with why do we need a good resume for data science and machine learning? To answer this, consider your employer as one of your customers. It's your first impression to your employer. An employer who has been hiring probably for many years, who have experience in hiring with a lot of years, an employer who is going through daily stack of resumes every day, selecting very few of them. Most of the times, these employers don't have enough time to go through the details of, or each of the details of our resumes. So they just want to skim through our resumes. And some of the fact finds online available say that 80% of the resumes are actually misleading, which means that the job description says something or requires something, but resumes shared or applied are showing some other skill set or techniques. Another statistics say that 75% of the resumes are actually have wrong email address and phone numbers, which means that there can be typos in the email address or phone numbers. The information maybe is missing, or maybe the information is available but not visible on the resume. And these days, most of the employers are actually recruiters depend upon the application tracking systems and these application tracking systems actually scan thousands of resumes in few seconds. And if these machines don't find the right keywords, the required techniques or skill sets, our resumes are actually thrown out of the system immediately. So that is why building a resume for data science and machine learning, a good resume is very, very important, especially for a profile like data scientist, which is more oriented towards tools and techniques than in general. So let's start with the 8 steps on how to build a good resume for data science and machine learning. The first one is layout and format, or we can say the first impression of our resumes. So the slide is structured in such a way that we have some of the do's and some of the don'ts that we should follow during the resume building. So let's start with first, what are the things that we should follow during in the layout and format. The first one is, which is the most important, is lesser the better. In the sense that ideally we should have a 1 page of resume as a data scientist, but people who have experience or experienced professionals for many years can have 2 pages of resume as well. The second point is we should always ask for a JD from the employers to apply for before applying for a job. The reason is the skill set we should match. We should always highlight the skills that is required in the JD in our resume and then apply for the job. The third is linear format is preferable than adjacent format. So I'll explain this point here that sometimes what we see is people mention these skills, the techniques, the sections adjacent to each other. So linear format means each of the sections of a resume should come next to each other, which gives a more readable content to the recruiters. Otherwise, for example, we have seen a lot of profiles where people put their work experience sections, their education sections, their skill set parallel to each other. And for recruiters, the difficulty is whenever they have to find for such a skill set, they'll have to go through all over the place in your resume. So we should always follow a linear format. This is also called one column format for a better resume presentation. Whenever sharing online, we should always try to share our resume in a PDF format. If PDF format is not available, you can share Word format. But we should never share our resumes in formats like PowerPoints, text, or any other rare formats which are not easily available with people. Always try to keep your resume simple, crisp, and clean. For examples like spaces between the sections, unnecessary spaces we should not put, text overlap with each other, text alignment, right to left, left to right. These things should be double checked before creating a final version of your resume. In terms of fonts, we can use maximum two types of fonts while creating these sections, especially one for the headers of the sections. You can use the bold size of font, and one size for each across sections. And another font type and style basically is for the body of these sections. But it should not be the case that each of the sections has different font styles and sizes. That should not happen. So these are some of the basic rules that we should follow. Let's talk about now the don'ts that we should probably try to avoid. The first is we should always try to use a standard template to create a resume. Instead of being artistic or, too much, like too many designs should not be used in a profile. The second is the photograph. We can keep one photograph if you want. Otherwise, in a data science resume, the employers do not look for the photographs. But in case you want to keep a photograph, you can keep a professional photograph, passport size, on the top of your resume. Depends upon the alignment of your text. Non-technical contents like the personal information, the references, the declarations are actually not required. As I've already mentioned in the last slide, the data science profile is more on technical and tool specific than in general content. So any which ways, these information recruiters generally don't look for in a data scientist resume. So that is not required to have it in your resumes. Some people also try the unnecessary visualizations, like to show their skill set. They use pie charts, donut charts to show their career timelines. They show the charts to show the career timelines or their professional journey. I would say that is not required, again, because the idea is to look for the techniques and tools, not the visualization in your resume. While creating a resume, one more thing is very important is the colors. Always try to avoid the too bright or too vibrant colors to create a resume. Instead, if you go with the standard templates, they will have the inbuilt color. You should use them. Otherwise, without a profile without a color will also be good. Moving on to the second step, which is the cover letter. So cover letter, again, in data science, will not spend too much time on the cover letter, because it's not in data science profiles. It's not that required. The cover letter generally recruiters don't ask, especially but some of the areas where you're applying a job in a teaching or on a research field where they can ask the cover letter. But if you want to keep a cover letter, you can keep one. Generally, the format of the cover letter is that it's mainly one or two paragraphs in which you talk about the organization, how you can generate business values through your skill set that you possess to the organization. So that is the idea, that how you're best suitable for the job, that you mention one or two paragraphs in the cover letter. But otherwise, in general, for data scientist profile, cover letter is not asked for. Moving on to the third section, and this is one of the first official section of your profile, the introduction section. So there are some basic rules that we should follow to create our introduction section. The first one is that it should always appear on the top. Some people, we have seen few profiles where they mention their email address and phone number at the bottom of the profile, or the second page of the profile, or every page of the profile. We should not do that. It should always appear once and should always appear on the top of your profile. What it should contain, a full name of your full name, whatever name your official name has. It should always contain your full name, clean, valid contact details. Again, the point comes where people mention many times, like people wrongly mention the email address and phone numbers. So it should be double checked after inserting the email address and phone numbers on the top itself. If you have Kaggle, GitHub, LinkedIn profile links, you can mention here as well. If you have a portfolio or blog links, also can be mentioned in the profile, in the introduction section. But remember, do not try to make this section too cluttered. It should be clean and simple and crisp is the first philosophy that we should follow. In terms of font sizes, again, throughout the resume, we have already talked about that not more than 2 font sizes we should use. So, but again, you can, these spaces, the styles, and should be properly optimized and aligned in this section. So one of the example here, my resume I've shown here, you can create on in this way or any other better way you can try. But if you see that on the left-hand side, I've put my name, and on the right-hand side, I have email address and my phone number. So that is it. I did not add anything else. Some of the don'ts that we should follow while creating this section, especially this section. Sometimes people try to put the complete address, their home address or their personal address. It is actually not required, because any which ways, I think the idea is to give the location preferences or location, the current location, but that actually happens through the face-to-face conversations most of the times. So we don't need to provide this additional information on the introduction section. And any which ways this takes space also. So we should try to avoid this mentioning the complete address. Any which ways, if you want to mention the address, mention the city, that would be enough. Again, such a few personal information people provide is the languages. I would say language is only required if it is asked in a JD or it is required for a role. Otherwise, mentioning language apart from English, or if you know any foreign language apart from English, you can mention. But otherwise, in a data scientist profile, it's more on, as I already mentioned, tools and technique is more required than general content. So here, languages are not preferred. Logos and visuals, some people use that, like LinkedIn logo people put, or GitHub logo people put that. If it's smaller in size, very small in size, not making this section too cluttered, you can use it. Otherwise, it's not required. You can just mention the link, and that is more than enough. Some people also try to come up with a write-up or an elevator pitch in the introduction section. I would say this is optional, because any which ways the next section would be a profile summary or professional summary section, in which you will talk about your elevator pitch or write-up, a few lines write-up there. So unnecessary, we should not, in this section, we don't need to put it unnecessarily. Otherwise, it will be a duplication of the text. Again, a photograph is not required, but if you want to see the space on this section, and then you can paste your professional passport size photograph, left or right. Next section is professional summary section. In this section, the idea is to give about yourself a small write-up of your professional journey, or an elevator pitch also you can say. Remember, this is the professional journey you will be talking about. You will be summarizing the content of your work experience, of the techniques that you have used so far, skills that you possess, strength, and the tools that you know should be mentioned that in a very summarized way, not your personal journey or personal profile. Again, this should be more oriented towards tools and techniques. So that's what data scientists are actually known for. No other content should be mentioned in this professional summary. If you are a fresher, if you don't have experience, you can use your coursework related, academic project related experience, because you also know the techniques and tools till now, because whatever you have learned so far. You can create your own summary by mentioning the technical and details and tools in this section. Again, I've already mentioned that we should ask for a JD before applying to a job. So it's better always if we highlight the keywords that is mentioned in the JD in a resume in this professional summary as well. So one of the example shown in the profile summary is you can see that some of the keywords are highlights, like data science, 8.5 years of experience, decision science, project management, analytical challenge, business impact. These kind of keywords is generally asked in the JD. You can also highlight, and freshers also can do the same thing. They can come up with a 3 to 4 lines of summary, as I mentioned, from the coursework, and highlight these keywords. You can put more keywords like supervised learning, machine learning, these keywords in this section, and then share your resume accordingly. One of the important don'ts of this section is the career objective. So many people put the career objective in this section, like what kind of role they are looking for or what kind of opportunity they are seeking. It's actually not required. There are 2 reasons for it, because it's one thing. The first is that it's obviously or implicitly understood when you're sharing a resume, you know that people like recruiters know that what is the objective would be changing mostly. The other is it takes unnecessary space in your resume. We don't need to I mean we don't need to put up your make your resume congested. The third thing is when you share a resume, generally objectives are discussed during face-to-face conversations. So mentioning this on the resume is not helpful or does not give any incremental value to your resume. Next is the most important section of your profile, which is technical skills and expertise that you have. Many experts say that this can be totally modified based on the job description that we receive. And that is why people suggest that we should have multiple copies of our resumes before we share, and depends upon the profile that we are applying for, we should share our resumes accordingly. But still, there are some of the do's and some of the don'ts that we should follow. The first one is, as I mentioned already, based totally on the job description. Some of the keywords you can mention. If you know the skills, or if you have if you have worked upon the techniques or tools, you should definitely mention with the highlighted keywords. Key skills and expertise required for the roles. Again, yes, for the role, you should always put up the key skills and expertise required. The third point is also important: the order of the skills and tools. So sometimes this happens that you know both. Suppose you know both Python and R, but JD is requiring only Python. So you can order your skills accordingly. Mention Python before then R, or suppose another job description requires SQL over Python, and if you know both, then you should put SQL before Python, and then you can mention the other skill set accordingly. There are also requirement to put the technical skill in structured view. So one of the examples of view you can see below. The technical skills, I have sectioned it, like I have themed it accordingly. What are the techniques that are relevant in today's data science world, and what are the one more level details about the techniques, that what kind of techniques I've worked upon, and the details around it. Some people try to also create more than 2 to 3 skill set sections in your resume. Like one is technical section, one is on the languages, on the tools they know, and the other one is business skills, and then the third one is soft skills. So I would recommend that we should have only one technical and business skills section. In that, you can mention your first technical skills, but that's what prioritize technical skills, but that's what data scientist role is required for. The second is your tools that you know or you're working upon. The third is your business skills, team management skills, professional skills, but again, not too many. Fourth is your soft skills within one section. Whatever soft skills if you possess, you can keep it, but not again too many soft skills. Some of the don'ts of this section as well. We should not put too many techniques or too less techniques. We have seen few people who have many years of experience actually have learned a lot of skills in their during the experience. But for them, they don't need to put all of their skill set into one resume. As I've already discussed, that we can have multiple copies, and depends upon the role that you want to apply. Keep the resume, keep the technical skills mentioned in the JD more which are mentioned in the JD, or prioritize over the other skills. Do not mention the skills which you're not confident about. Suppose if you are not very confident about R or SAS, no need to mention those kind of skills in your resume, in this section especially. Self-rating. Some people again come up with self-rating on their technical skills, especially 1 out of 5, 2 out of 5, 4 out of 5. It's I would say that's actually very subjective, because any which ways the recruiters will be evaluating you on the skill sets based on the technical rounds they will conduct. Some companies have more than 3 rounds of technical discussions, or 1 round of technical discussions, or 2 rounds of technical discussions. So it's very subjective, and it's from our side we are giving the information to the recruiter. Otherwise, it's and any which ways it's not. The recruiters will not believe on this. Mostly believe on this the rating that we provide to them. Because of the technical skills, they'll have technical rounds of discussion with us. So that is why it does not give any additional incremental value to the recruiter from our side. And in fact, we should be very careful about mentioning the skill sets, because if you mention 1 out of 5 in Python, it's better if we don't, if we remove that skills for this version, we learn the skills and add it back to the resume, then mentioning it 1 out of 5 in Python. Some of the obvious skills like MS Office, especially Excel, PowerPoints, Word, these we should avoid always, because these are some of the, again, implicitly understood that these techniques we should be knowing. Unless and until the profile is asking for a kind of VBA kind of role and you are mentioning Excel, but otherwise in data scientist role, MS Office skills are obviously, I mean, this is like implicitly understood, so we don't need to mention them explicitly in a technical skills section. The next section is visuals. Again, we have talked about it. Visuals means like some people try to show their skills in pie chart, donut charts, and flow charts. That we don't need to use the flow, like the charts, to mention our skill sets. Another important skill set is the soft skills and business skills. We can add business skills and soft skills under the technical skill section that we're talking about. But we should not mention too many soft skills or too many business skills in our resume, because that is, again, being evaluated by recruiter automatically once they conduct the interviews. But yes, like we should always mention 2 or 3 important soft skills from our side into this technical section, but not too many. The next section is the work experience section. This is the section where we actually add the projects that we have been working upon in our professional journey. Like for experienced professionals, we should always put relevant projects on the top. Relevant projects means the role we are applying for. Those projects, if the projects they have worked upon is matching with the role that recruiter is looking for, we should always try to prioritize those projects over the other projects. People who are not experienced, who are freshers, they have capstone projects, academic projects. They have worked on hackathons, practice problems. Accordingly, they also should prioritize them accordingly to the JD they receive, and mention the projects in this section. How many projects do we need to mention? Again, it depends, but maximum 3 to 4 projects are more than enough. And many experts also say that if you the recruiters actually evaluate your profile by looking at first 2 or 3 projects from your like work experience section. So any which ways, if you're adding more than 4 projects, 6 projects, 7 projects, is actually not going to add any further value, because the recruiter might not have enough time to look at all the projects. They will evaluate you based on your top projects, which you are mentioning in the work experience section. So we don't need to go beyond 3 to 4 projects. But if you are a seasoned professional, you have a lot of projects, you want to showcase them, you can create a portfolio, as we've already talked about in the first page. You can create a portfolio, you can mention the project name and give a link to the project. And then if people are interested, if recruiters are interested, they will click on the link and go and read read about your projects. Which you can also see in the screenshot below. This is one of students' resume screenshot I've taken here. So this person has built a lot of projects, but if we need to mention here, like it will take a lot of space. So that's why he just kept one line in the project description, and the link is provided. So if we are interested, we can click on the link, go to the profile of this student and check about the project. How should we structure our project? That's also important. The top 2-3 projects should be actually structured in a very professional way. Otherwise, the recruiters get lost in the description, the details, especially like the problem statement. Sometimes it doesn't come out properly. What kind of problem you're trying to solve? What is the approach that you are taking? The solution you are trying to provide. The outcome of your project, if you have generated any business impact, how the business got impacted through your project, it should also be mentioned. And if any available, any implementation available of your project or a model or your any other project where you are able to deploy the project or productionalize the project, we should always mention and highlight that thing in here. Some of the don'ts also. Now let's talk about some of the don'ts of this section. Again, too many or too less techniques we should not mention here. Then we have in the project side, again, we don't need to mention the ratings. Visuals, again, we don't need to mention about the projects. Long project description, again, is not required. Some people come up with the long project descriptions in the sense that they first talk about the project for a long time, and then especially the description, and then try to explain the approach or the solution. That is actually not required. Next is the academic or personal projects. So this, you will see a lot of overlap between this step and the previous step, because these days we also need to mention, sometimes it's required to mention our academic or personal projects, especially the projects we publish on GitHub, Kaggle profiles, to showcase our data science and machine learning skill sets. So again, people who are, and this is more relevant for people who are more experienced, but they do not have experience into analytics and data science. So they are, suppose somebody is taking a transition from IT to analytics. So what kind of, how they should use this section actually, that we'll talk about that. So experienced professionals who are not from data science actually can mention their capstone projects, their hackathons, their practice problems which they've worked upon, their Kaggle projects they can mention, again relevant based on the JD that we have received. The structure is same. Maximum we should always put 3 to 4 projects, not more than that. Structure will again be the same. We should always mention the problem statement, the approach, the outcome, and the implementation if it's available. People who are very senior, who have more than 10 to 15 years experience, they might not have hands-on experience on this, on the data science projects or machine learning problems. So what they can do is, instead of mentioning the projects, they can mention the initiatives that they have been taking through the industry, or what are their key learning from the coursework that they're doing, or what are the changes that they're making in their current organization if they're working somewhere. So those kind of initiatives they can mention here, structure them properly, and then highlight them based on the JD that they receive. Again, include links if available. Yes. So if if we have more than 4 to 5 projects, we can definitely mention on the links. On this section, what are the don'ts? What are the things that we should not follow? Is again many common projects like basic. So again, in this section, so in this point, what I'll talk about is that a lot of times what happens is we work on problems which are very, very basic in nature. So always we do not get very high-end projects. And many a times this happens that in probably a quarter or 6 months of time period, especially working professionals only work to get a chance to work upon one good project. Apart from that, the basic analysis that always like we keep doing and sharing with our businesses and partners. So those projects actually should not be mentioned in the resume, because that does not add any other incremental value in your data science portfolio. And also for the recruiter is implicitly understood that if you can solve a complex problem, a simple problem can also be solved very easily. Again, long description we should not mention. About the project, the problem statements, the approach solutions, and the outcomes should not be too long in the descriptions. Always, another very important point is the repetitive content on the project. So one example here is that suppose we are building a predictive model on the campaign targeting in a marketing domain. So like suppose we have customers, we want to target the customer through a campaign. There's one type of campaign. And we have built a model, we have implemented the model, and we have we have significant business impact through the model. Now, what happens is sometimes the same kind of problem comes to us for a different campaign. So basically, replicating the existing model on some other kind of campaigns. So these kind of content or repetitive projects actually should not be mentioned. Try to be more distinctive in terms of project that you're mentioning. If you're mentioning 4 projects. Try to make sure that all the 4 projects are actually distinct from each other, not overlapping each other. Projects, sometimes this happens also, like people write projects where they're not confident about or not worked upon or not hands-on experience on these projects. Try to avoid them, because sometimes this happens that it's required in the JD and you're mentioning it, but you're not worked upon it. And recruiter asks questions, it gives a bad impression on the recruiter that you've not worked upon these kind of problems. Last but not the least is the education and the details. So this is again very subjective. Some people put the education on the top of the profile after introduction section, but again the recommendation is we should always try to put the education section on the bottom of the profile. So this should be technically the last section of a profile. But depends upon the JD again. If it's focusing too much on education and a high-end skill set is required, or the latest education is required, you can mention on the after the introduction section as well. But what are some of the things that you should follow while creating this the details is the again try to maintain an order. Chronology here is that you should always try to mention the latest education on the top. Again, you should be highlighting your education based on the JD. Like suppose masters in statistics or masters in analytics is required, then you should highlight that course in your education. Again, structured view is chronology. First, you should mention your latest education, then the second highest and the third highest, but should not go beyond the like top 3 to 4 courses that you have studied. Again, awards and achievements, some people also put this along with education, but should not be, and these but this section should not be on the top. This will always be on the bottom side. You can mention of your resume, you can mention a very summarized and crisp version of your the awards you have won or you have achieved, as you can see in the example below. So there are like 4 to 5 lines of the awards and achievements section I've put here, but you can summarize this as well. Some of the don'ts of this section is, again, too many trainings and certificates. So I know that we do a lot of trainings and a lot of videos we watch, a lot of certificates we complete. It is not necessary to put all the certificates and trainings in your resume. It's actually based on the JD again. Not more. You should not mention more than 3 to 4 trainings or certificates in this education section. What some people also do is they try to mention the education before graduation also. Like they start from the schooling and then graduation and then higher post-graduation and then the latest education. Like suppose in this example here shown, somebody has mentioned the education from Great Lakes, and then after that the bottom is like the school education, the 10th standard. Is actually this much detail of education is not required actually, because the latest, as I already mentioned, like top 2, 3 highest educations details we should mention, and this does not give any additional value to the recruiter, especially from a resume point of view. Also, it is not advised to put your marks or percentages unless and until it is like the latest one you can mention, but otherwise the percentages, the marks, the CGPA is not required to be mentioned in your education details. You can just mention your degree, your year of completion of the degree, and the university name or the school name or the college name which you have studied from. That is more than enough for this section. So so the steps are over. Last in the checklist for resume is that we should always after creating all this section, we have created a checklist we should always follow. This is based on the order side, because already hygiene factors we have already checked. What are the preferred order of view of a resume? So first is again our introduction section in a resume. Then we should mention a technical skills section. Then the third one is work experience or professional experience. Then we have academic or personal project section, and then we have education and miscellaneous details into as the last section. But education can be on the second section as well. It's up to us, but generally it is advised to use the education on the bottom. Some of the don'ts again here is like too many trainings. We have already talked about these career timeline visualization. People try to actually come up with career timeline visualizations. It is not advised to be part of the to your resume. So moving on to the third topic of today's discussion, the GitHub profile creation. So these days, especially in the online scenario where every interviews are being conducted online, companies are taking interviews. So they don't generally, like if they're not able to meet face-to-face candidates, they always try to check the profiles available. Candidates like GitHub profile, Kaggle profile, or any other portfolio they have built. Companies actually focus on these profiles. So the next few slides captures the profile creation step, the basic profile creation steps on GitHub. Similarly, you can create a profile in Kaggle as well and participate in competitions. So let's go over a few of the steps, and then we'll move on to the Q&A section. Okay, so for GitHub, actually, it's very simple. You can try creating your own profile after this session. So what you need to do is, for the online version, we need to go to github.com. You sign up for a new account. If you have an existing account, you can sign in and put your email address and username and password. Once you create your profile, actually I've created a new profile for this session because my existing profile is like too much cluttered. I have to visit my profile and clean it up. But if you see, once you sign it up, you will see the bottom screen, the overview screen, where on the right hand side is your profile. Here, your profile details will be available. You can click here and check your profile. This is the overview version where you have repositories mentioned here on the left hand side. If you have created any repository in the past, like if you are already you have an existing account, all the repositories should be available here. So repositories are basically the space given by GitHub to us to keep our codes, our folders, our information in each of the repository, and you can create multiple repositories out of it. So let's talk about how we can create a new repository. So from the overview screen, you can see there will be a new button, a new green color button over there. You have to click on the new repository, and then once you click on that, a new screen open up which says the create a new repository. The owner name is your profile, your username. Repository name is any name you want to mention. You can change it later also. I just created a test repository for this session. You can make public or private. So if you make private, you have to provide access to people who are accessing your who wants to access your codes and who want to access your files. But if you make it public, you just share the link, anyone can access it. Initialize repository with README button. So once you click on the README button, you will see there is a README option where you can add text to talk about the code or this section contain what this section contains and details about this section, the repository section. And then once the details are filled, what you do is you click on create repository button. Once you create a repository, as you can see, the repository view, you go into the repository view. Here you see your username. Then we have repository name, and below we have this repository name and README option. So now there is the repository is created. This is the repository name, and now we start. We start adding the profiles. We start adding the codes and the data and the folders, the data on this profile on this section. How we can do that is, again, suppose we have data or code, Python code available or on a local system. So what you need to do is click on add file option there. And after you click on add file option, there is an option comes to upload files. So you click on in the add files, you can click on upload files. Once you click on the upload files, this screen shows the screen number 5 shows below. So from where you are now about to add the profiles in this, about to add the codes in this section. So if you see here, you can either drag them or you can choose your files. You can click on the choose your files option where you click on this link. And if as soon as you click on the link, it opens up a new pop-up window comes up, and you can go to a particular code where it is saved and click on that code and click on open. You can share, you can save multiple codes also in one go. I've just tried to create one here. So once you do that, a green bar shows up that that basically gets completed of loading the file. After that, once you load your file, you should be able to see your file here. So if you can see the cursor, I've loaded one code here, Python file. You can see the Python file is visible now. Once the file is visible, you can click on the file. Once the file is loaded, you can click on the file and you can see your code is with the output will be shown in the file. I've taken a screenshot here. That's why the full view is not available, but the code is like full length code is you will be able to see from starting to bottom with the output. So that's how you upload your files, your data to GitHub. A basic repository section we have covered. If you want to see or once you basically share with other people the link of your GitHub profile, they will come to this section. So this is the overview section of your profile. Here you can change your photo if you want. You click here, the edit option comes, and then you can change your photo. Here on the top screen, the first home screen, you will see the repositories on your profile. Here you can see there are 2 repositories because I've added one before and one now. So you can see two repositories. You can keep adding repositories to your GitHub profile, and if you made them public, you can share the link with other people, and they will be able to see the code saved on your GitHub profile. Okay, so that is all for today's session. Let's move on to the third and last section of this Q&As. the first question first. So, how many projects they should mention in the resume? As we have already covered this in the academic projects and the work experience projects sections of the resumes. So ideally, we should not mention more than 3 to 4 projects, the relevant projects based on the JD we have in hand. As I've already mentioned that the recruiters actually, if they want to evaluate your profile, they can evaluate it from the top 2, 3 projects. So we don't need to we don't need to go beyond 3 to 4 projects to in detail, but we should always mention the project in a structured manner. The structure we have talked about, try to mention your project in a structured manner so that recruiters can easily follow the project that you're mentioning. On the LinkedIn and GitHub profiles, yes. So these days, actually, it's important to mention the GitHub profiles, the Kaggle profile, the LinkedIn profiles, because most of these interviews are being conducted online. And what happens is, to evaluate your profile, like how good are you in terms of coding, in terms of data science, what other people talk about you, or these kind of, if the employer wants to have a check, they can go and check your code on GitHubs. They check your profiles, go to your LinkedIn profile, see your experience, what domains you've worked upon. If it's not clear from your resume, or if it's not coming out of, if they want to check something specific from your resume, they can go to the LinkedIn profile and check. GitHub and the Kaggle again, because the Kaggle has a lot of has I think more than millions of people community on data science. So actually, if a recruiter wants to evaluate how good are you on data science and how active are you, how active data scientists are you, like they can go to your Kaggle profile and check as well. So if you have worked there, always try to mention. If you've not worked upon Kaggle profile, just created it, then don't need to mention. Otherwise, if you have been participating on Kaggle competitions, always try to mention that in your introduction section. So what happens is, here comes your academic projects and personal projects section becomes more important, in the sense that as we have already discussed in the on this section, that you should always be careful once you're applying for a job. Check the JD from the academic project section or personal project section. Or your capstone project. Try to mention those projects in a structured way. And highlight the key. So basically, highlight the technical skills, the key techniques that you know based on the JD. Create a structured resume and then share with the recruiters. Basically, if you follow these guidelines that we have been discussing, so you should be able to create a good resume, shareable resume with the recruiters. And yes, it might be the case that you have 2 years of gap. Maybe companies might not consider you as a senior, maybe like as a senior for senior positions, but definitely for intermediate roles, because you already have 4 years of experience, they can definitely consider your profile. But keep updating your resume based on the job profile that you want to apply, and keep only relevant skills and focus more on the projects that is asked in, like the skills in the projects that is asked in the JD. So again, I would say yes, the focus would be on technical skills, as basically keep practicing on the technical skills, keep working on hands-on projects, take exercises, practice data sets. I mean, practice the modeling problems on Kaggle, on Great Learning hackathons. Keep participating and keep you building your technical stack higher, because data science is all about the technical skills and tools people look for. It's not that the previous skill they will look for. Of course, you will have they will observe the candidate from a business angle, from your previous experience. That is also important. But again, we should, as a data scientist, like we should always keep building our technical stack always higher. So keep practicing on hackathons, participations, GitHub profiles, always be updating. Like latest project should be always be mentioned, and update your profile according to the JD you receive, the skill sets that are required. What are the current techniques that are actually going on in the market? What are the famous techniques that we should work upon? Those kind of stuff we'll have to keep doing it, practicing it, and then adding your resume. Structure is again the same. If you follow the same the guidelines that we have discussed, it should not be a problem. But yes, like it'll take it'll take some time to get hands-on, to get practiced, and get ready for the job that you want to apply for. freshers, it's important to mention their projects from coursework, whatever they have been learning so far. The techniques and the projects are two main sections for freshers. The technique is that latest technique they should work upon. They should keep practicing on the latest techniques, and whatever they have learned, they should always try to put in the technical skill section and highlight them in the according to the JD. The second is the work, the projects they should mention. Their capstone project is very, very important. They should do, it's not, they should keep practicing on the capstone project. Similar kind of problems, if they have, if they are interested, they should definitely try to solve similar kind of problems. But again, top 3-4 projects from their coursework, if they can mention, like one problem can be time series, one problem can be text mining, one problem can be supervised learning, any supervised learning algorithm. So try to keep the profile versatile, but yes, you can use the projects that you worked upon in your coursework and your practice problem, hackathon, competitions. I've already discussing this. So those 3-4 projects, top projects should be mentioned with the technical skills. Yes. So that is important for them. Basically, in the last section, if you've seen education and miscellaneous details, it's if the course is important, you feel, or it is asked in the JD, like this kind of, sometimes JD also be very, very specific, like MSc in statistics, suppose, or masters in economics, or probably masters in analytics or business administration, or any online course, sometimes specifically JDs ask for. But otherwise, if you want to mention some of the online courses, you can mention top 2-3 courses that you have completed. Otherwise, not more than 2 to 3 courses you should mention in the education detail. Create a separate section as a trainings, online trainings, and you can mention these courses, but not more than 3 to 4 courses. Let me try to answer the first question. So in data science, mainly 3 types of role generally open in the data science industry. The one is a business intelligence kind of role, where people who have more skills on the business side, the visualization, the intelligence, like they can provide insights on the data. That is also a part of subsidiary of the analytics profile that is some companies look for. There, especially if you have seen the JDs, the requirements, mostly the requirements are people who are good in Tableau or good in ClickView or Python visualization, D3, these kind of technical skills they ask for. So if you want to fit your profile there, that will be more, of course, that will be more suitable there. But if you want to, the another kind of role is the kind of data and science and data analytics or consulting kind of role, where what you need to know is more on the predictive modeling side, where people ask for some solving supervised learning problems, unsupervised learning problems, hands-on Python, then Tableau. Tableau is secondary for them, but of course, if you know Python as well as Tableau, it's an add-on to you. But of course, for these kind of roles where predictive modeling is more required, machine learning is more required, Tableau is secondary for them. But the first profile where business intelligence come analytics role kind of role is required, where Tableau is more important than other profiles. The third is the data engineering profile, where completely is a tech stack profile, where people, especially from the IT industry, are more suitable, who know higher end deployment model structure, Hadoop, Hive kind of data infrastructure, who have experience about them. So they can, that is more suitable to these people. Try to create basically try to, if you're not able to study alone, create groups, talk to each other, connect with people who are like in the industry already, who are working in the industry, who are working professionals. Connect to alumni if you can. Take their suggestions, what they should do. Don't feel rejected, don't feel right now maybe the job market is like not great. You might not find your resume is like getting selected easily. Of course there can be challenges, but yes, over the time you will see like this will be a new normal. There'll be online interviews, online sessions conducted. Your profiles will be visible. They will be visited online, and these things will happen over the time. Companies are getting adjusted, but yes, stay in touch with people who are experts in the industry. They'll keep you motivating, practicing, try new things, create groups, study as much as you can, and enjoy your time at home. Don't feel disheartened that market is not available and I have completed my course, not able to get the job and these kind of things. Everybody is facing the same situations. So yeah, like over the time, you will see once this pandemic is over or get decline, so you will see your resume will be available, like will be selected. Companies will be conducting interviews, and then at that time also so basically the idea is that this time will go over, and don't feel disheartened about this time, but keep practicing, keep utilizing this time as much as you can. Utilize this available time with you.